Okay, so I'm going to show you how I make this beautiful paper that I use for lots of things, but backings for my artist trading cards. And this is what it looks like in small pieces, and these were both done on the same sheet of paper. And of course, you can do this whole big sheet of paper and then cut it up, and you can sew on it. Because the type of paper that we're using is a watercolor paper, 100% rag. This is it, arches. We're using a hot pressed, which means it's a smooth surface, and 100% cotton. What do we have? 140 pound? Anyway, yes, 140 pound. And so our first step is, now this sheet I taped down. So this was a single sheet, and you can kind of see that there's tape. I taped it to the inside of a plastic lid for a, just one of those big containers. And so that's blue masking tape, and this was taped down. And so the first step in this process was, I guess I'll hold it this way, is to do the first layer of paint. And then the second step in the process was the second layer of paint, which was sponge. The first layer is painted. And then the third step in the process is to sponge some metallic paint on there, and I used gold. Now, you don't have to use all the rainbow colors, but you can. Oh, but the advantage of using this type of paper is you can sew through it because it's 100% rag, so it loves to be sewn through. So this is how we start. I have a palette here. You can see part of it. And I squeezed out my paint. Now, if you don't have a really big palette, you can use little teacups or little plastic containers. And so I've mixed all my paint here with the water, except for the red, because I'm going to show you how to do that. So I just put some water in the wells and mix some paint. And I am using the tubed paint, which is here. Different brands, Lizard Crimson for my red. I didn't have a good orange. I was out of cadmium orange, so I'm combining cadmium red and yellow. This is probably cadmium yellow, yes. And then green, Viridian I'm using, and cobalt blue, and then this violet, which is, what violet is this? Oh, it's just called violet. So I'm using basically the 3 primary colors and the 3 secondary colors. Okay, and I'm using tubes, but you don't have to use tubes. You can use the pans. Just takes a little more work to get the paint squeezed out there. Now when I squeeze, to get the paint from the pans mixed into kind of a liquid that you can use. I have a little bottle of water here, and I use this to spray anything that needs to be wet, which is usually a little bit of the paint that I put on the side of the well. I use a small brush. Oh, I use a sponge. So the first thing I'm going to do is use the sponge and squeeze it to get some water in this well. Okay? And then I'm going to use this little brush to slowly mix the paint in. If you do it too fast, see, you can get some little pieces in there. And we want to try to not get pieces. I do like to use the tube paints because they're richer, and probably only richer because they're easier to get more paint out of the tube. But if you use the pan paints, what you can do is spray them with some water. You can use this, or you can wipe the water on with a brush and let that water sit for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and that'll loosen the paint a little bit so that it'll be easier to get more out. So I'm mixing this little by little in here to get my red. Now, the way I did my design on the other colors was kind of a diagonal design, and we'll take a quick look at this one again so you can kind of see that I have, oh, it's a little close, but what's going on here is the red is diagonally across, and then I put orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet here, and I went the opposite direction next to the red. I put the violet and the blue and the green and the yellow. No room for orange on that side. So I'm going in the order of the color wheel, and red's easy to start with. I'm using a few different brushes so I don't have to clean them each time, so that this video doesn't take as long. But if you only have one brush, you'll be probably cleaning it each time. And I'm using, this is just a thick brush that you can sometimes get places like TJ Maxx or Marshall's in like a set of makeup brushes, and they're just really thick, and they put a lot of paint on there. So I'm just going diagonally here. And I know I need to have my camera up higher, but I don't have long enough neck on it, so I will just describe. So I'm doing this diagonal line across here with the red, and it's just, you know, whatever I feel like. There we go. And then I'm going to take the orange, and the orange you won't be able to see here on my palette, but I'm going to get it on the brush. And then what I'm going to do is make it a little bit of a space. See how it bleeds right in there? Well, I want to have a little more control over that. So I'm going to put my orange on there and leave a little space. And then when I'm done with that, wipe the brush. You want to be wiping your brush. And then go down in kind of a zigzag motion or curly cues or something. And those colors will start to blend. And then if you decide there's not enough color on there, you can always add more later. It looks like my red got a little thin. I normally don't like it that thin. That's probably because I did that one mixing it up as a demo, and I wasn't paying as much attention to how thick it was, how thick the paint. So I'll just add a little bit more in here. And it'll just kind of bleed and look pretty. And this is fun and easy, and if you hate how it comes out, you can paint over it a bunch of times, so you don't have to worry. So then the next one I'm going to do is the yellow, because there's red, orange, and yellow in the color wheel, and I've got that on my little brush here. Now the yellow, I usually mix the yellow a lot more intense because it is the one color that tends to get faded out and everything blends into it, and then it kind of disappears. So I'm just going to put that one on there like that, and then the next one will be the green. So I have a brush here for the green, and we'll put the green here, and it'll kind of start to blend, and we like that kind of look, that kind of blendy look. If your green or your orange kind of take over your yellow, well, after it dries, you can put more yellow on top and it'll be fine. So, and then I'll do the blue here. Let's see what brush we have. We have a Hake brush here. We'll put that blue in. It's a little wimpy too. We'll add a little more color to that. And then the last one will be the violet. This is the brush that's a lot of people who are in my classes use. It's kind of a makeup type brush, but it's really good for it's good for kids too. They give kids those little wimpy little brushes that just have like 3 hairs in them. So now I'm going to take the purple and put it on the other side of the red too, and I am going to, it's a little bit liquidy there, so I am going to leave that little space in between till I get all the paint on there, and then I will blend it together with my brush. And you can wipe your brush or not, whatever you think. You can try it both ways. I'm zigzagging it, and that's what's going to help that purple blend into the red. Okay, and if you leave a spot that's white, that's okay too. We don't care. We're happy either way. And let's see, here's the brush with, so then I'm going to go to the blue because blue goes next after purple. So we'll put the blue. Woo, what happened? I used the wrong brush. That brush had orange in it. Sorry, that's why it turned brown. That's not so good. Okay, so we'll put a little blue here. And if stuff kind of swirls around like that, it's all okay. It's all good. It's going to be beautiful no matter what. And this gives you an opportunity to play with paint. And here's the green. And then we'll go next to the yellow. And we'll probably have a little bit of space to do orange. I think that was the one where I used the wrong brush, so I'm going to use the right brush this time. I'll add a little orange over here. There we go. So we have our stripes, and we're going to let that one dry. And I have this other one prepared that we will use next, and this is the one that I painted last time. So what's going to happen with this one is we're going to sponge paint on top. So the first layer of paint is done with your brush, and the second layer of paint is done with your sponge. And just trying to see what the best way is for you guys to see this. All right. So I have several sponges again. If you just have one sponge, you can use that. And I'm going to turn it the other way because it'll be the way, the same way that I showed you guys. Here we go. So let's move the table over a little so you can see, hopefully, what's going on here. Okay, so this is the diagonal red. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go do the diagonal red in that direction with my sponge. So I'm just going to take my sponge up here and tap, and it's going to give a texture to it. So whatever I did underneath, I'm just going to switch it this way. So this red was first, and then we did the orange next. So I'll take another sponge. Now these little natural sponges, you want them to be wet before you use them. So I have them over here soaking in water. And now I'm tapping it into my yellow. I'm sorry, we were going to do orange next. And you want to squeeze them out. You soak them in water so that they're soft, and then you squeeze them out. And so this brush, this sponge now has the orange. So I'm going to do the orange next. And notice how I'm moving my hand. You don't want to do tap, tap, tap in the same direction because natural sponges have their own kind of fingerprint. And if you just tap, tap, tap like that, what happens is you can get the same shape all in a row, and it doesn't look as interesting as if your shapes look more random, I think. You can do whatever you want. But I'm tapping again with this and going in different directions. And then the next one will be the green. So I'll put the green here. And I'm going right on top of those other colors. And then the next one is going to be the blue. I'm running out of sponges, so I'm using the same sponge for green and blue, just a different part. And I'm going to tap in there. My blue's a little bit weak. I might go over that one later. And then the last one is going to be the purple. So we'll put that over here. That's with this little sponge here. And then the purple was also the next row after the red here. So we'll start at the top and go down with the purple. Tap, tap, tap. Oh, I got a splotch. That's okay. I might be happy with that later. It might help. So after the purple is going to go the blue over here. So we'll put some blue. And then the green. And my green's a little weak, so if the colors seem weak, you can always let this dry and go back on top. So my texture looks not quite textured enough to me in there, but that's okay. We can always go over. And then here's my yellow. So the yellow has really good texture. And we've got the orange. And then the last one, we can do the red over here. So that gives you some texture. I'm thinking that I need a little bit more definition with the red in the center. So I just used a little bit more on my sponge and put it in there. And you can let it dry, and you can do this another time if you want. I might put a little bit more color on there. And then the next step, so this is one that I had already done the sponging on, so it looks pretty good. And now what I'm going to do is add the gold. So I have a paper plate, and then I use gold acrylic for this. So this is the gold acrylic paint. And squeeze some out there on the paper plate. And you do want to probably have paper towels pretty close by. And I'm going to use the other half of the orange sponge for the gold. Now, acrylic paint, you want to be sure you wash out of these sponges really, really quickly. The other colors, you can throw them in the water and wash them out, 10 or 15 minutes later. But the gold is acrylic and it's fast drying, and you don't want to mess up your sponges. And by the way, if you don't have a natural sponge like this, if you can get a big sponge someplace, an artificial sponge, and then just take tweezers and pull pieces out so that it kind of has irregular shapes on there. So what I'm going to do here is notice how I'm also rotating the sponge, and you can do this with silver. I'm just using gold. You can do it with any color. It doesn't have to be metallic. You could just do white or black on top if you want, or if you decide that you want more of an overall color, like you want some rainbow colors, but you also want it to look a little more like blue or green. You could go on blue and green on top. Like if you were doing a mermaid, you might want to do blue and rainbow colors underneath and blue and green on top. So I'm running out of gold a little bit here, so I'm going to squeeze a little bit more on. Here we go. And rub this again. You want to rub it so you don't want too drippy. The reason for rubbing it is so that the sponge doesn't have too many drippy things on it. And then I'm going to go all around the edge. I got a little drip there, but you know what? Maybe that's going to come out fine for me. There's a little bit of a place here. I'm pressing down here to make sure that there's no big globs. And then we're just going to go over. I could go over this with silver too, after the gold. I mean, there's no reason why you have to stop here. And I usually just keep sponging over this until I like it. And if I don't like it yet, I try different colors. The good thing about watercolor paper is it's pretty sturdy, and you can do a lot of things to it. You can put a lot of layers on, and it's strong, and it'll look good. So a lot of people who make their artist trading cards, they start out with a small size. But this is a good technique because you have a big piece of paper, and now it's all got a nice backing to it. And then I can just cut this up into the 2.5 by 3.5 inch trading cards after it's dry, and then use them for the backing for whatever I want to do. Now you can do this in different colors. If you were doing, I was thinking I might do Wizard of Oz cards, Wizard of Oz theme, and if I did that I would probably use their colors, which would be yellow for the Yellow Brick Road, and then there's red, blue, and green mostly in that. Or if I was doing a fairy garden color, I might use paler versions of these colors and maybe silver on top. So you can choose your colors based on what your theme is. So that's basically how you create this paper. And you want to clean your brushes and your sponges right away. Here's the finished one again, what it looks like. And here's the one that I just did. And let it dry. This is on this book, so it's stretched. So these are stretched. There's several pieces of paper in here, and you do the top one, and then when it's dry, you use a razor to cut it off. So if you don't have your paper in a book like this, that's what you would use your masking tape for, to stretch it out. Because watercolor paper will buckle up a little bit when it gets wet, but as long as it's stretched out one way or another, either on this pad or with your masking tape to a flat surface, then just let it dry, and after it dries, the paper will be flat again. And if it's not flat enough for you, I have ironed it before. This is, after all, 100% cotton paper. I don't iron it on the painted side. I turn it upside down and put it on something that's going to protect my ironing board. And I have ironed it from the back, and it worked out great. So that's how you make your paper, and have fun.